Hey, what's going on, guys? Jeff Koga here, and I wanted to actually get something at a conversation I just had this weekend with two future doctors, all right? Two students from UCLA Medical. They're actually, one's a very good friend of mine from my wife's good friend, and as well as another gentleman, I guess her boyfriend. And I figured that I actually talk about this because it's kind of an interesting conversation. You know, because I'm always genuinely curious about what other people are doing, and also at the same time, I like to, learn from other people, So the conversation where I asked was, hey, what are you liking? What you don't like? What's going on? And I don't exactly remember the order because it was actually super, for me, I was like really tired at the same time. But the couple of interesting things that when we were having conversation, we talked about a whole lot of stuff, was one was their students at UCLA, and at the same time they work with different people, right? So like at hospitals and stuff like that, I believe. And the interesting thing was the challenge of when they're seeing like patients that are like diabetic and stuff like that, right? And they're talking about how it's not motivating, right? Because people are in diabetic and they're overweight, and so you give the remedy, which is to like, hey man, like lose weight, eat a little bit healthier food. Yet on their next checkup, not only did they not change their habit, but instead some people might actually have gained weight and stuff like that, which is terrible. And then another individual is doing, I guess, more on the, I believe he said he wants to specialize in like orthopedics, I believe, and was talking about how people would have arthritis and stuff like that, right? So if you have arthritis, one of the reasons why people would have arthritis is because you're putting too much strain on your body because you're overweight. And for me, it's funny because it's the same thing that runs into, I think, like any business as well as even in life, is like there's certain things that I personally try to do. Like, for example, I run a consulting agency, right? So, and I create products that are supposed to help, and they do help, like business owners on how to get more business, how to actually create a better life, how to actually run a business that they believe in. And yet the people that invest, like, they invest money in it, right? $100, thousands of dollars and stuff like that, and people don't do anything. It's an interesting thing, and I don't think that's just across the board. It's like same thing with like people who buy books and stuff like that, right? And then you might order like just a chapter, like read only a chapter of it or something like that. So it's very common, I think, in this world. Like, again, the practical thing is, as I said, is what's the answer of losing weight, right? Which is one, like eat less and exercise, right? But yet we have a multi-billion-dollar industry when it comes to losing weight. And then here's another example. The one I gave earlier is about like books and stuff like that, right? How many times have you bought in a book and you haven't finished it, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with it. Again, there's so many things that I think I've done, I think everyone does. I'm not trying to sit in like some type of ivory tower and act like I'm the only runs into this type of challenge. I think every individual, regardless if you're a business owner, you work at a job, regardless of what it is, you run into that same issue where you start noticing what's happening, and you're just like, and it's draining, So for me, it was interesting having that conversation with the future doctors of America, and then they said that. And then another conversation, and I wish we could talk some more, which was a part where I guess they're doing interviews for people that want to enter into medical school, okay? And they do interviews, and with these interviews, they ask certain questions, and one of the most interesting thing was they kept on saying was like, yeah, like with these interviews, like, people give these generic answers or these very common answers in these interviews, and it's kind of like, okay, no, we really want to hear like what you have to say.